Welcome to Buckets, brought to you by BetMGM, the king of sportsbooks. My name's Matt Moore. I'm the senior NBA writer for the Action Network, and this is your Tuesday, November 14th Best Bets episode in the National Basketball Association. Also, it's tournament night, baby! In-season tournament continues with a bunch of games on Tuesday night. We'll talk about the implications of that. We'll talk about how everything has kind of played out in the tournament so far, and we'll give you some best bets for today. Everything we talk about on today's show can be found in the award-winning Action Network app. You can find all sorts of great information. You can catch our live shows like Green Dot Daily. I went on there and gave my NBA State of the Union. I'll be doing that every single Monday, so you want to check that out. You can catch our Power Hours and our Action Islands and Convince Me on Sundays. All sorts of great shows. Check it out in the Action Network app. Also, make sure to check out our YouTube page. Go to youtube.com/The Action Network, and you're going to find all sorts of great stuff on there that will make you smarter. You're going to find great picks every single day. Like, we just got a ton of picks. Like, that's what we do, is we give you a ton of picks. And so make sure to check it out. Go to youtube.com/The Action Network, where you can find this podcast. And joining me on this podcast, I got Jay Money and I've got Andrew O'Connor Watts. They're going to give me some best bets for the Tuesday slate. Boys, big slate. Not any bad rest spots. Got some injury problems, though. Jay, what's your best bet for Tuesday?
Yeah, I like the Pacers, kind of straddling in between the first quarter and the full game for the Pacers. I think they're going to come out and make some adjustments this time around.
Okay, the Indiana Pacers taking on the Philadelphia 76ers, plus 5.5, 240.5, the total in the market. Andrew O'Connor Watts, what are your picks for Tuesday?
Yeah, so I got Thunder -9 and the Nuggets -6.
Okay. I am also with Andrew on Thunder -9. I found it in -8 early when this popped. And I've got the over in Pacers and Sixers at current number in the market, 240.5. I will like that to pretty much any number it's going to get to. I will also take the Heat -4.5 versus the Charlotte Hornets. That, by the way, is our NBA bet stream of the week. If you go to Heat Hornets in the NBA app, in the actual NBA app on League Pass, and you click on streams, get the drop-down menu, it's gonna say bet stream. Click on that. You'll get me and Brendan Glasheen and Sharad Hira from DraftKings live betting all throughout the night. It's always a really good time. Make sure to check it out on that. Let's start with Pacers Sixers here, Jay, and get your cap on why you like them in this spot. Look, this is a duplex spot. They just played the Sixers obviously won in that game, put up a huge point total based off of Maxey going for 50 here. I mean, I get it, because this reads as like an adjustment and a revenge spot to a certain degree. Why do you like this spot so much?
Yeah, I like the Pacers here. Like I said, I'm kind of leaning towards first quarter as well. They will need to come out and make some defensive adjustments. Now, this Pacers team have the number one offensive rated team in the NBA. They just got to muster up some defense in this one, man. We know Embiid, he's going to go out there and drop a couple of quick fouls in this one. But I like what I saw from the Pacers. Got down 19, but with their offense and how potent it is, they're never out of a game. They came all the way back to actually take a 1-point lead in the game, man. They were outshot by 15 shots. So all of these things, and only losing by 11, I think they actually have a chance to win this time around. Like I say, this is possibly a Maxey letdown game as well. Usually when guys go for 50, the next game isn't as good, and we know that he said that he was dedicating that game to Kelly Oubre as well. They have one more starter out, that's Nicholas Batum, so they're going to be shuffling around these older guys, and I just really think there's a chance that the Pacers can run these Sixers off the floor. I did bet them on Sunday, but sometimes you can't go away from a good idea. I'm going right back at them here, plus the 5.5.
It's interesting. So this is I've started calling a duplex spot, which is you play twice inside of a handful of days, a week, or in most cases, honestly, 3 days now. So on one hand, I think it's like, yeah, you just play each other. It's hard to beat a team twice. That's kind of been the trend, but these are both at home. I think that's like an interesting kind of dynamic. I will say this, since 2020-21, so post bubble, when you're favored at home and you won, and you're favored again, teams are 84-27 straight up, 65-45-1, 59% against the spread. Now I know that's not going to get Jay off of this. He's never rattled by my trends. I could throw at him any sort of number, and he's just going to be like, "Cool, bet."
One more thing, Matt. Last point. Celtics on deck the night after as well. So I'm not gonna say look ahead, but maybe saving a little bit of energy to get back at the Celtics, which you could say a much more important game. This is a tournament game, and I know the Sixers probably want to win it, but I mean, do they? We've seen that the young guns have kind of taken this tournament games a lot more serious here. So maybe that's why Embiid popped up on the injury report. Maybe might choose to play versus Celtics next night.
Yeah, and the other thing I will say, let's talk about the tournament side of this a little bit, because this is like an interesting trend that I found, which is essentially that, okay, historically in the NBA, and this goes, I've done this across most splits, early game, late game, like early season, late season, whatever. In the tournament so far, like historically in the NBA, if you're a dog and you cover, you win outright. Like that's been the trend, that if you cover as a dog, you just win the game outright. We're not seeing that in tournament play, which I think is really interesting. We're actually seeing instead favorites are 9-7 straight up, but they're just 3-12-1 against the spread in these tournament games. So like that's a great trend in Jay's favor. Like Andrew, I kind of think what this kind of gets down to is teams do pick up a little bit more. So to Jay's credit, like this is Pacers in a high motivation spot. You just lost to them. Maxey scored 50 on you. I'm worried about them being able to just keep up because the Sixers are so much better, but the spot is pretty good based off of the early trends that we've seen in these tournament games.
Yeah, I mean, I would be wary with the tournament trends just because it's such a small sample size. But
hater. Well, here's the problem. Here's the problem. There's no greater sample for us to access.
I understand.
That's the entire sample of games in this construct, Andrew.
Of course. I'm not saying they don't matter, but I would say, like, if you like the spot for the team, I would trust that more than the trends, is all I'm saying.
I think it's interesting. I think it's here's why I think the trends are interesting on tournaments, and I'm tracking them pretty close. The reason I'm tracking them pretty close, this isn't like the Pacers playing on a Tuesday historically, right? Like that's a nonsense bullshit trend. This is literally like we have different game conditions. The court's fucking different. Like there's like a million ways in which this environment is independent of what we normally see. Now, the teams are not treating it wildly different, but they are treating it a little bit different. That's not to say I'm like, you're absolutely right. It's a small sample, right? I'm just simply saying that I find it fascinating, if nothing else, that dogs that historically, if they cover, they win, are not in these instances, that they're covering at a higher rate than winning. That's really interesting given the trends that I've noticed across the NBA writ large. On this game, I've got the over. Because I don't know if you know this, guys, Pacers overs are a wagon. Like it's a beautiful, it's just a beautiful thing. Like they can't make these lines high enough. They just cannot build totals high enough on these numbers. 9-1 to the over on Pacers totals this season. That's because everyone's talking about it. Because this is flying under the radar. Everyone knows the Pacers are running and gunning. This is at 240.5. This is one of those where the projections that I run spit out a number, and sometimes I just don't say anything because I'm too embarrassed by what it says. I will share this one. Mine has us at 260.3. Like my total's like, and it consistently keeps being really profitable to go on this route. In part, I just think because there is no amount. The Pacers' dedication to pace is something that they will not get off of. They won't defend, and they're going to play fast. And so it honestly comes down to the one time that they went under, and I bet that game, which was fucking painful versus the Bulls, they just missed a bunch of threes. So to me, I feel like this is a great spot to bet the over here, Jay. I'm a little bit surprised that you're not with me on just like, let's just bet on points, man. Like one way or another, if the Pacers win, if the Pacers cover, they're putting up points. If the Sixers win, they're dropping big points. I love the over in this spot still.
Yeah, I could never talk you off of a pay. Never bet unders with the Pacers. I can tell you, even if the game is looking like it's going under, like you said. I mean, these team can they can drain three threes in like 45 seconds. So I could only look towards the over. And yeah, 9-1. That sounds about right. We're definitely going to get to a point where they're pushing 250s for the total.
Let's do Thunder -9 here. So OKC taking on San Antonio. This is this is a pretty easy model play for me. I did do a little bit of background on it to kind of like dig deeper on it, and I kind of came out with like I've got this double digits easy. I've got this 12 conservative. If I add like a more normalized home court, it's 14. Andrew, like shaky injury report for the Spurs. The Spurs on the road have like a minus 14 point differential. They have lost twice by 40 on the road. Now, I'm not saying they're going to lose by 40 here, but an OKC team that I think is really good, really competent. As long as I get it, like I have to be real. I will say this: be real careful with the injury report on OKC, because if Shea has a hangnail, they'll hold him out, and that messes up everything. But in general, I think this is a great spot for the Thunder.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm a little surprised that they're 0-2 so far in the tournament. This feels like such a Thunder tournament. Like it seems like such a spot for them to kind of, make their breakout full and they've been that kind of the darling for a while. So to win this tournament feels, or at least play well in it seems like a thing that would happen. But yeah, to me, this is just a matchup thing. Like I also use projections and a model. Mine makes it about minus 13, minus 12.5, depending on what numbers I'm looking at. But if I look at last season's numbers, it's 12.5. And if I look at this season, minus 13. So that's kind of like consensus all around play for me. When it was minus 7.5, I thought my numbers were broken or something. So that's what it popped when the lines first came out. But yeah, I mean, even beyond that, this is just a good matchup for OKC. Since last season, they're 3-0 against the spread and straight up. Where do I have it here? 12 point margin of victory in those games. So yeah, they've just been dominating this team. I mean, that was obviously without Wemby. He's obviously a huge factor. But if you look at like kind of shot distribution, Spurs take a lot of mid-range shots and above the break threes. OKC is 5th in mid-range frequency, 6th in opponent above the break threes in terms of limiting opponents, and then number 1 in mid-range percentage and number 8 in above the break percentage. So where they get most of their points, OKC's defense does well to defend. They're 4th in opponent effective field goal percentage. So yeah, this is just a kind of no-brainer play, like you said. Another little thing too is Mark Daigneault, since taking over, after his first season at home against the West, is 33-20-2 against the spread.
Whew.
Yeah, so just a little.
I don't know, Andrew, the sample size on that. Keldon Johnson's questionable in this game. Trey Jones, who's actually really important for them, their on-offs are terrible because they need a point guard, is questionable, and Jeremy Sohan is questionable for this one. So yeah, a bad injury report as well. Jay, is there a reason you're not on this one?
I actually liked the other side until I saw the injury report, and you look at the injuries: knee soreness, groin tightness, and hamstring tightness. Those are the type of injuries that they don't like to really push players through. Yeah. So wouldn't be surprised if Keldon Johnson sat and Sochan sat as well in this one. But me personally, I do feel like it's too many points with the Thunder here. Obviously, it's the highest spread that they've laid all season. I do think this is more of a type of team that can win small spreads as far as a favorite and play better as a dog. But not even that. If you take off the names of the teams off the jerseys in this particular spot, this is not a spot that I want the home team coming in off 2-game road trip and a big win versus the Suns back home for 1 game, and then they go right back out on the road for a 3-game road trip as well. So usually this is a spot that I like to fade the home team, and they're laying 9. So me personally, I could only look towards the Spurs here, but decide to stay off.
Okay. Nuggets -6 taking on the Clippers. Clippers are obviously going through it. Nuggets are off of a loss, which they tend to bounce back pretty heavily from. Andrew, what's your cap on taking the Nuggets here versus the Clippers?
Yeah, again, it's kind of a combination fade of the Clippers, who are just terrible since getting James Harden. They're on-off splits with Harden. So Haralabab Vulgaris posted this stat. I'm not sure what the source is, so pardon me if it's way off. But Clippers score 1.32 points per possession with Harden off the floor, and 0.82 with him on the floor. And they're giving up 1.32 points on defense with him on the floor, and 0.72 with him off. So until they figure out how to not do that, I'll take the best team in the league in a game that's like a pretty motivated spot, right? Like, this is also like they've just dominated the Clippers pretty much since that bubble collapse series. I mean, since that bubble series, the Nuggets are 9-2 straight up, 7-4 against the spread, but that's including the next. So the next game after that bubble series was a Christmas Day game, and the Clippers won. That's like a pretty clear motivation spot for them, right? Pretty bounce back, Jay. Tell me about that spot. After that, losing that 3-1 lead, right? So if you don't count that, then they're 9-1 straight up, 7-3 against the spread. No Plumlee, so they're lacking size. Just Zubats. Jokic absolutely demolishes Zubac. The last 8 games versus the Clippers. This is just rebounds. I talked to my guy Joe Dallaire about this. 17, 6, 13, 14, 14, 13, 22, and 14 rebounds. The 6, by the way, was a game that the Nuggets were leading 32-65 at half and 101-59 going into the fourth. He played 24 minutes. Weird outlier game. His rebounds prop is at 12.5. Not a bad look. But yeah, I mean, right now I'm just on the -6. So yeah.
Okay, so on the one hand, in terms of the motivation spot, the Nuggets do take these matchups personally. Marcus Morris decided to fuck with Paul Millsap in that bubble series, and from that point on, they have taken these matchups extremely seriously. And you've got Lou Will, who's still out there talking about like, well, we just realized it wouldn't really count, so we just didn't care. It was just we didn't want to be in the bubble, And I'm like, yeah, everybody was in the same fucking bubble, man, and you were up 3-1, and you got your ass kicked bad. You were up double digits in 3 games and lost them all. So like, look, yeah, it's a good motivation spot for the Nuggets. I will say this. So this goes back to since the bubble, without Jamal Murray, when Jokic plays, off a loss at home. When Murray plays, they cover like 70% of the time. It's a great spot. But when Murray doesn't play, they're at 12-16, 43% against the spread. Now, a lot of that is in the season and a half that he missed, where the roster just wasn't very good. I kind of argue the roster's not in a great space now. Like, this was my entire thing with the Nuggets is like, I'm not surprised that they've looked awesome out the gate. My questions were like, if you have to fill in with this bench, what does it look like? And so far, it looks like absolute garbage. Like, they were -15 in Jokic's minutes in a loss to the Rockets. And they were -30 at one point.
Damn.
It's also, to me, you're selling low on the Clippers, right? Where like, everybody's like, this team's a joke. This team's like, Harden has ruined them, blah, blah, blah. It's just like, this is like the absolute low point for the Los Angeles Clippers. On the other hand, if you're in a bad spot, this is not a get right spot. You don't play the fucking Denver Nuggets to get yourself feeling better about your game. I'm going to stay away from it. I'll be there tomorrow. I'm doing NBA bet stream, and then I'm driving directly to the arena for second quarter on. And I'll be really fascinated to see how it goes. I kind of lean to the over. I think it's a weird spot for a number of reasons, like I kind of laid out. I'll also be curious to see like how the Nuggets approach this with the tournament in mind. If they win this, like they're very likely to go on and make the tournament. They're going to be 2-0 with a good point differential if they win this game. If they, by the way, the Thunder, this is do or die for OKC. If OKC loses this, they're 0-3. It's over. Like they might be done now. They're 0-2.
That's a good point. That's a good point, man. I was going to say that as well. They're already 0-2. Even if they blow the Spurs out by 50, I don't think the point differential matters if their record isn't there. So they might already be out of the tournament.
Right. So Denver's definitely in. I don't know if Denver wants to win or not, but we'll kind of find out. I think it's an interesting kind of look there. Finally, I'll just say Heat minus 4.5. Again, another projection play, right, where I've got this pretty solidly 8-ish. Terry Rozier still out. Gordon Hayward's probable. That hurts me a little bit here, but the Hornets are real bad, and the market I think is still a little bit reluctant to adjust on them. And I just keep finding kind of like I look at them and the overall profile says that this is an absolute garbage team, which I thought initially, and then everyone yelled at me and was like, what are you talking about? This 31 number in the win total market is crazy. And then I went to betting their overs, and now I'm like, why did I bet on LaMelo Ball? Why did I do this to myself? But in general, I like the Heat spot here. I think they're playing pretty well. No Tyler Hero, obviously, but like, look, I want Miami, Jay, when they're banged up. Like when people start being like, oh, it's gonna be really hard for them. That's like where I'm like, that's where I want Miami, because Spo coaches them up. Like that's where their depth of organization winds up getting them an advantage.
Yeah, and they play more defense. I mean, the Heat are red hot right now. I still don't think they should have won yesterday versus the Spurs. Like, I'm still really pissed off about the game. But whatever. It is a double revenge spot from last year as well. They've lost 2 in a row versus the Hornets as well. But I can say one good look, like a good prop bet look, is P.J. Washington, either over his points or PRA, and this one 21.5. I just think it's a really good matchup versus the Heat, who really don't really have a true power forward. I mean, if it is Kevin Love, P.J. Washington will cook him. But it's definitely, I definitely have Heat written down as a lean. Like I said, I mean, they've won 5 straight. They're 3-0 against the spread last 3. And just like all their guys just kind of play the same way, just kind of defensive minded. They can hit threes. I mean, young guys come in like Jaime Jaquez as well coming in. So number 8 defense in the league as well, last 5. I could only look towards the Heat wave versus this trash Hornets team.
Yeah, it's on the road, which I don't necessarily like love, but it's also I still make this 9 even with home court. So, all right, let's go wrap it up for Buckets for Tuesday. Thanks for joining us. You can follow Andrew O'Connor Watts in the Action Network app and on Twitter. You can also do the same thing with J Money at J Money is Money. I'm at HP Basketball. My thanks to David Payne, our producer, and our video team putting this up on YouTube at youtube.com/The Action Network. We'll talk to you guys again next time. Till then, let's get buckets.